Buddhists are taught to follow the breath in their meditation, primarily. This is the foundational practice in most Buddhist meditative systems. Even really the mantra practices and the chanting practices, if you examine them very closely, are really breath practices. The whole earth is breathing, it's always breathing. We're breathing, everything breathes. One of my teachers, Soen Nakagawa Roshi, a Japanese Zen master who came and taught in this country in the middle years of the last century, died in the early 80s. He used to say that we were all part of one nose-hole society. One nose-hole society. And he would point like this, one nose-hole society. I can still remember the way he said it. He was a very little guy. He had a big booming resonant voice, and he would decry these sort of eccentric sayings. I once ran into him on the hillside near Daibasatsu, the monastery where I trained, and I was a young student. It was my first, retreat, and he came walking up the road, and I was walking down the road on the mountain, out in the middle of nowhere. Daibasatsu is very remote, and he came walking along up the hill, and I was walking down the hill, and he stopped me, and he pointed to a clump of daisies and said, "What do you call this?" And I thought it was some big Zen question. I was like 19 years old, so, or 20, I guess, 19 or 20. I was very young. And so I got really flummoxed, and I stumbled, and I didn't know what to say. Like, what was I supposed to take my shoe off and hit him or something? I'd read all these, Zen stories about how you're supposed to behave with the master, and it seemed like an encounter directly out of one of the old Chinese classics. And so he looked at me sort of strangely for a moment, and he says, No, it's name. He didn't know its name. So I said, it's a daisy, right? And then I guess I sort of thought the encounter was over, but it wasn't. And then I got a wonderful teaching, because then he leaned down. He was a small guy anyway, short and somewhat frail, very strong, filled with, steel. He was a very, very strong, determined person, but very slight and very small in stature. And he bent over to the daisies like he was talking to them and said, "Daisy, wonderful flower." And he said this again and again to the daisy. You see his breath sort of coming out, "Wonderful flower," and you could see the daisies just sort of breathing with him there as he said that. So it was a strange thing, because I thought, okay, I'm about to get a teaching. He says, "No, you're not about to get a teaching. Just tell me its name." I told him his name, and he says, "Now you're getting a teaching." But he gave the teaching, to the daisy. It was just him and the daisy. So I think he would have said that the daisy also was breathing. It was part of his nose-hole society, one nose-hole society. That all things are breathing. And when we focus on the breath in our meditation, that's really what we're doing. That's the reason why I say that I walk into like a Zen center or just about any spiritual setting, and it's possible to see people practicing green meditation. Most of them just don't know it yet. Thanks.